Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Capperfay and I'm delighted to be part of this lovely event. Do what you really love. And a big thank you to Natalie for inviting me to participate and talk about a topic that's very dear to my heart, which is the topic of energy. And more specifically, how bringing a particular type of spiritual practice into your life can literally open you up to huge universal support and bring through immense clarity, all of which are very important in the context of getting clear about where your passions lie, getting your ideas out into the world, birthing your ideas into form, and getting on purpose. And I'm going to be talking about some specific blocks that come up. Typically for people when they're trying to get clear about their passions and get on purpose. And I'll be giving you some tools to assist in dissolving those problems when they arise. And I'll also be giving you some tools for daily energy alignment, so that you can be more powerful in the world in terms of achieving your goals. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I am an energy healer, I'm a soul coach, I'm an international teacher, and I'm also the creator of Inner Uprising, a transformational program of healing, self-discovery, and personal transformation. And I have also been a guest host on Hay House Radio, where in fact I've shared some of the tools that I'll be giving you here. To bring my work to life, to give you a snapshot of the type of clients who come to me and what they're looking for. I tend to attract a lot of soulpreneurs, people who want to answer the call of their soul, and lightpreneurs, people who want to answer more specifically the call of spirit to be of service. And invariably those people end up in front of me because they've hit one of two tensions. They're either provoked by the absence of life purpose and knowing precisely where their passions lie, or they're provoked by the arrival of purpose, strangely as that might sound. The arrival of one's purpose and great clarity about what one's passionate about can bring up some issues, because then you're forced with the necessary leap into the unknown and a departure from what is known. So that invariably brings up a bit of a hornet's nest of fears for some people. And beneath both of these points of tension, either the presence of something you don't want or the absence of something that you do want, in either regard, what I find when I'm working with people is what sits at the roots of tension is a lack of any spiritual practice. And that's one of the first things I start bringing in with the person, to bring in the clarity, the flow, and really anchor their energy. And you might say, what kind of spiritual practice? Meditation? Well, meditation is a quick go-to as an obvious spiritual practice, but the kind of spiritual practice I'm talking about is a type of practice that you can do anywhere, because it's a conversation. It's perhaps more correctly put as a spiritual conversation than a practice, but it is a practice. And what that means is you're communing with your own energy by going into a lot of quiet contemplation and really feeling your own energy and communing with your own energy and asking it how it's feeling and what it wants. And you're also communing with your what I call your spiritual support team, your higher self, your soul, and the universe. And in doing that, you're really helping yourself access great clarity in terms of what's right for you and which direction to take. Your soul, as an example, has the blueprint for you for this life, what has been organized for you to be able to achieve in this life. It also has huge access to all the experiences you've had in your past. It's a walking library of knowledge in terms of what you love, what you've perfected, what you're good at. And so tapping into the soul in terms of asking, where is my joy? Where are my passions? Where's my purpose? That's a really good go-to place. Your higher self, is a huge energy in and of itself that you can access for great moments of clarity, for big decisions, and also for your deeper development. And your higher self is assisting your soul be embodied in this lifetime, and all you have to do to help that situation is to follow the energy. But of course, we need to be connected to our own feelings to be able to sense what's in the energy. And then the universe, well, the universe is the supreme intelligence that to a great degree is orchestrating many opportunities for us, and can line us up with the perfect platform for us to showcase all of our gifts and talents. So it's very important as your spiritual practice to be having a conversation with those energies as though they're your best friends, and they are your best friends. And so going back to those two tension points that my clients often present with, if we look at those poor people who say that they don't know what their life purpose is and they don't know where their passions lie, firstly, your passion is there, your gifts and talents are there, your life purpose is all there, predominantly in the debris of your past, and that's where you need to start looking backward to be able to move forward. And for those people, what I do, the first tool I give them to bring in that clarity of where the passions lie and what the purpose is, I get them to take some quiet time out, invite in their spiritual support team, and get into that conversational mode with those energies and their own energy. And I get them to put pen to paper and do a timeline of their life, and writing into that timeline all the pivotal events, the things that they've studied, the jobs that they've had, the careers they might have had, the genre of books or films that they've leaned to, listing key memories of where people have expressed, you're really strong at that, you're so good at that. So I get them to really write down a very rich timeline of their past. And then I get them to just sit back from it, and making sure they've invited their soul, high self, and spirit to the conversation, and ask themselves this as they look at the timeline. And the question is, if all of this was preparing me for something, what might that be? And by default of us asking our own energy and our spiritual support team a question of that nature to do with purpose, particularly to do with purpose, they will clamor to get signs, symbols, messages, epiphanies through to you to help you get it. So trust me, your purpose, your passions, your gifts, your talents, that you may not know what they are right now, but they will start to emerge if you engage with that process of the timeline, and engage absolutely in having a conversation with your spiritual support team to give you guidance and direction. And now for those who have found their purpose and they know what their passions are, and they're a tad stressed because now they're faced with the inevitable pressure of having to respond to that and take the leap of faith into the unknown, and leave what is known. And I've done it, so I know how difficult it is to leave the structure and the safety of the known for the complete unknown. And we really don't know when we're following the energy of our soul's calling. We don't necessarily know because it's not tangible. It doesn't come with a manual. It doesn't have a rigid structure to it. So there's really nothing to hang on to except the deep knowing and the feeling, and of course being alert to the signs and symbols of the universe. But if we're in a bit of stress and we're in a bit of fear, we might not be picking up on those signs and symbols. And that's where we invariably end up in a situation where these three key issues start to appear. The first being self-doubt, that inner noise. Am I good enough? Will people want my products? The outer noise, opinions of people in your circle about the choices you're making. And in terms of the second block that tends to come up, the second block really to clarity, it is the misdirected focus. So all of one's focus going around one's life purpose but not to it. And that comes up a lot for people, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then the third big energy block that comes up, which blocks clarity, is the emotional disquiet, and that's coming from one of two places, and primarily it's coming from having asked the universe for a lot of things and possibly not answered what's coming in for you, and also reaching for more than your energy's ready for. But if we go to the first one, which is the fear and self-doubt, this is the first realization I would love for people to have, and it is that if you feel passionate about something, it means that you're within the vicinity of your soul's calling. If you feel passionate about doing something, it really is your soul calling to you, come here, come here, come here. It doesn't come like a memo. We have to just follow the subtle feeling. And if we're taking action for what we're passionate about, that's when we're really answering the soul's call. And the most important thing, I think, perhaps for you all to hear is that our soul would never lead us astray. It wants us to come into alignment with our joy. It knows where our joy is. However, it doesn't come with a big sledgehammer. It's just subtle, and we have to be in regular quiet contemplation to really pick up on the subtleties. And we have to be in direct communication with our spiritual support team, asking them questions. And of course, the other thing that I would love for people to just ponder on is this: that the universe didn't put us in the world with gifts and talents that we couldn't flourish from. That would run contrary to the relationship that I call divine reciprocation. And what that means is the whole structure of energy and the universe is really about us doing our inner work, developing our gifts and talents, and the universe sends us a perfect platform to play out those gifts and talents. Why? Because as we expand in joy, she expands in joy. And in the same way, as an actor might hone their craft as the actor, and they have an acting agent who gives them a stage to play on, it's no different. That's the relationship that we have with the universe. We're doing the development, the spiritual development, the development of our gifts and talents, and she's sending us the platform to play them out. So that's divine reciprocation. Very important to remember on those dark days when you're not feeling so great and there's a lot of self-doubt. And of course, that brings me to the outer noise, the external opinions of others about the choices that you're making. You know, there's no money in that, you're crazy, don't do that. Let me tell you a story about outer noise when it comes to taking a life leap. Many years ago, when I made the transition out of the corporate world into the land of healing, which is very strange for a lot of people to get their mind around, but I was making the transition, and some people in my life, in fact some colleagues, were very vocal, negatively vocal about the choice I was making. In a sense, they thought I was crazy, moving out of the corporate field into healing. And in fact, they took me out for dinner one night, and they took me out for the express purpose of telling me that they had grave concerns about the choices that I was making, and they actually feared I was going to fail. Now, when you're in the middle of a leap of faith that you are following because it's just in you and you can't not respond to it, regardless of how strong you feel inwardly, to hear that is still devastating. And in truth, it hit me like a bullet, what they said. And I went home that night and I was really distraught. It really affected me. And so I did what I'm encouraging you to do here in those moments. I invited my spiritual support team forward to have a conversation with me. And I said, okay, I'm very distraught about this. This has just hit me so hard. And now I'm really troubled about whether I'm making the right decision. Please tell me what I need to know right now. Within seconds, this calmness swept over me, and it was quickly followed by an epiphany. And the epiphany was that at any given time, when people are giving you their perspectives, their judgments, their opinions about the choices you're making, particularly when it relates to a leap of faith into a new career, certainly in respect to the one I was making, what they're actually doing is not just sharing their thoughts for you, but they're also exposing, in those moments, they're exposing their own psychology around taking leaps and their own perspective on uncertainty and change. So it's really important that despite how close people might be to you, to remember that at any given time, only a percentage will relate to the truth of what you're doing. In fact, in some cases, the bulk of a person's opinion is coming more from their own stuff about putting their self in that predicament. So it's really important to call for spiritual support after those moments where people, to a great degree may have derailed your sense of clarity and your sense of purpose for your passions. And I'm so glad that I dug deep and I connected in to get that epiphany, because my life transformed because of the decision to leave the corporate world. My life has bloomed and blossomed ever since that transition. So in fact, they were very wrong about what they were saying they saw from me. And so that takes me now to the next block, which is misdirected focus. The focus going everywhere around one's purpose, but not to it. And this invariably is coming from the fact that people are making commitments to things, and they have not done a very specific thing before they commit. They have not gone off and connected into their spiritual support team, again, the soul, the high self and spirit, and asked, is this right for me? And the moment we ask, is this right for me, we will get an answer. I'll give you an example. I was contemplating whether to do an international teaching commitment a few years back. And I was very time poor. I was very, very pressured, but it was a good opportunity. And I thought, do I do it? Is it the time? Is it the right time? So I did what I normally do. I took myself and my spiritual support team. I invited them for a coffee. I went down to my local coffee haunt and I ordered my coffee, and it was a sunny day. So I sat outside in the sun enjoying my coffee. And I got my notebook and my pen out because I was going to journal as well. And I invited my support team forward and I said, okay, guys, now let's talk through this. Is it the right time for me to do this thing? I'm kind of wanting to do it, but I'm not sure the timing's right. Within seconds, something started crawling on my shoulder and I shooed it off thinking it was a fly. And in fact, it was a ladybug. And I'm sure for some of you as well, a ladybug is auspicious. It's a sign of good fortune. And that's what I thought was my sign. So I thought, oh, I got my sign. Well, in fact, that wasn't the only sign. The ladybug had actually fallen from my shoulder, landed on the table, and it had landed on a brochure that I'd failed to see. And the brochure, the ladybug was sitting under the title on the brochure. And the title said, "Now is the time." Now, that is a great example of how quickly and precisely the universe can respond to questions when we're engaging with our energy and we're engaging in our support team. And we have to be alert, though, to hear the answers, to feel the answers, to see the answers. And so not only that, though, with regard to committing to everything else, it's sometimes it's just not enough to just call in your spiritual support team. We have to be doing something at the human level. And so what I say to people is to adopt what I call a process of delaying your yeses. My clients are probably laughing as they hear this because I'm saying it all the time. You must create a buffer between someone requesting a commitment from you and your commitment to it. So often we're committing to things on the run, corridor conversations. Somebody's on the phone with us and we're committing right there and then. And what I say to everybody is this: don't do that. Start creating a buffer of time, a separation of time between someone's request for a commitment from you and your response to it. And so if somebody wants you to get involved in particularly in a work project, in a commitment there, go away and ask, how does committing to this support my vision? Does it contribute to it? Does it add no value? Does it distract me a little bit, but could be useful further down the line? Or does it actually derail my efforts? And if you're getting it, no, it has absolutely no value, or it could derail my efforts, then it's really important that you go back to that person and say, thank you so much, but this just isn't a focus for me right now. If it's a social thing, and there's always a social event, people are always inviting people out for social events, and that's a constant thing. What I say to everybody is this: again, go through the same process. If you've got stuff on for your purpose, then you've got to check, if you're getting an invite, how will it affect my tasks that I need to get done on my purpose? Will it contribute? Will it have no effect? Will it distract, or will it derail? And when you go back to people that you know, it's very hard to say the word no, and even miss out on stuff. But what I say to everybody is this: when you do go back to your friends and family, and you're essentially saying that you can't attend, tell people that you'd love to attend, but it's just not manageable. And don't give any other reasons. Going into reasons, you'll lose your energy by giving and making the excuse. You'll lose a lot of energy through that. So it's much cleaner to just say, thanks so much for the invite, but it's just not manageable. And then sign off with, but have a lovely time. Don't, however, sign off with, have a lovely time, but how are you placed next week, or how are you placed next month? Don't hook yourself back in. Learn to cleanly end your messages with, have a nice time, because you don't know where you're going to be at next week. You don't know how you're going to be placed in a month. So don't clutter up your energy, clutter up your mind and your clarity by rehooking when you don't need to. And then this takes me now to the emotional disquiet. Now, this is something I've seen over the years in my work. Anxiety has two faces. One, yes, relates to all the wounding and limiting and fear-based beliefs that relate to our past stuff, that are vibrating in our energy. And that takes work. That takes a bit of work and coaching and healing and therapy to work through that stuff. But there is another face to anxiety. And this relates to the arrival of what you've been asking the universe for that you haven't been acknowledging. And it's building up in your auric field, and it's rattling, it's vibrating, and it feels very, very similar to anxiety. So if you're having anxiety, you're feeling very panicked that you're not achieving enough, you're not getting enough done, it's very important, again, to take quiet contemplative time and sit with that. Call in your spiritual support team. Sit with the anxiety just for a moment and just ask, is this anxiety related to something from my past to be processed and released? Or is it in fact related to something for me, for my future, to be received and integrated? And you will get an answer. If it's to do with something that's for you, the rattling of the good stuff that's been coming in that you haven't really acknowledged and received, your energy will go calm, and that's an indication the universe is going, it's the good stuff, let us in. And then you can consciously state, I choose to surrender and let this energy in. Excuse me. And so those are very specific things that you can do to really alleviate the disquiet. Again, bringing back the clarity, because that's the key focus here. Because obviously from clarity, we're creating consciously, and our energy is flowing if we're in clarity. And another thing that I always like people to think about doing is, again, to declutter their energy and make sure their energy is very targeted where it needs to go on purpose. And that's to go through a process of wants versus readiness. Quite often we say we want stuff, and then we're pining because it hasn't arrived. But if we really look at the stuff that we're saying we want, quite often if we're asked, well, what's your state of readiness for that to arrive now, this week, next week? next month, next year. Oh, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not so sure. Quite often I have people in front of me and they might be pining about the lack of relationship. And so that's the want. And quite often if I say to them, so you're pining about this, it's getting a lot of energy. But if relationship derived into your life tomorrow, next week, how would you feel? And it is quite amazing when people are asked, what's your state of readiness for what you're asking for? Everything changes, and all of a sudden they're like, well, maybe not tomorrow or maybe not next week, but I do want it. So it's very, very important that we get clear about what are we saying we want, and what's our state of readiness. So what I again encourage people to do is to go off into quiet contemplative time, invite your spiritual support team, and do that list of wants. And next to it, next to each item, what's my state of readiness? High, low, tomorrow, next week, next year. And that will help you distill the list of wants, and it will sort the weeds from the flowers, so that you're not wasting time, focus and energy on stuff that it doesn't need you right now, so that we can bring back the clarity. And so in terms of on a daily basis, things that you can do, Natalie will give you a link for a gift for some daily rituals, energy rituals that I've created for you. And there's also a meditation to accompany that. But in short, the daily rituals that I've given you, they're intention based, so they can be done at a moment's notice. I'm all about getting things happening quickly. So there's I think 8 processes in the morning that you can do and take about 3 minutes, and I think there's 3 processes of an evening. The morning processes will set you up powerfully in an energetic way to face the day. And I often say it's amazing, we spend so much time preparing our physical self to be out in the world, and yet we spend next to no time preparing our energetic self to be out in the world. And there's huge benefits. So these morning processes, they will ground you, they will center you, they will resize your auric field so that you're not picking up other people's stuff. They'll help you contain your energy. They'll help you bring in protection, and they'll help you commune more directly with your spiritual support team, and access a lot of wisdom throughout the day. And particularly if you're going into negotiations or big meetings, you're going to need that support. And just on that, I know I'm running out of time, but just on that, it's a great thing to do. If you're going into a negotiation, invite the higher self of every attendee in that meeting into the room, along with yours, but make sure all the high selves, and you don't have to know who's attending, you can just say, I invite all of the higher selves of everybody who's part of this event today, this meeting, to be present in the room to guide the communication to a higher level and a very creative level. And just quickly, the nighttime processes, they help you clear energy that you've taken on during the day. They help you set intentions that are very powerful for your sleep time, your dream time. In fact, where you can call on insights to come through your dreams to inform a situation that you need some guidance on. So you can actually request before going to sleep that you receive insights through your dreams from your spiritual support team that will help you with X, with Y, whatever the thing is that you're needing help with. So I hope this has been useful. It's been wonderful being part of this event, and I hope you all enjoy all the other talks that are on here for you. So thank you and goodbye.